hell.
Okay, we are back into session just 7 minutes before 10.
Where'd everybody go?
There's still a few here. Going to item number C on new business, Agenda Bill 65-16, a public hearing and ordinance concerning single-family residential impact fee deferrals. Mitch, good evening again.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Agenda Bill 6516 in front of you is, in 2010, the City Council adopted Resolution 993, which adopted a impact fee deferral program. That program did not include school impact fees within it because we asked the schools at the time and they were not interested in being part of that. That program was also for a 3-year time trial, and no one actually utilized that program. Last year, the state legislature amended RCW 8202-050 and required all municipalities to have a single-family residential impact fee deferral program for all impact fees, including school. So at a minimum, we needed to update to include the school impact fees within this deferral program. So what we have done is that the proposed ordinance would amend our Washougal Municipal Code 1545 to add the definition for impact fee deferral program to the school impact fee section, and also add language to that same section making those provisions for school impact fee deferral. Those same definitions and reference to the impact fee deferral program already exist in code for fire, transportation, and park. Fire, transportation, and park impact fees. The resolution that is in front of you this evening is to actually amend the impact fee deferral program itself, and that, again, the Resolution 993, to be in compliance with state law. A joint notice of application, likely SEPA determination, was issued on July 22nd, 2016, and that SEPA was deemed final on August 8th, 2016. The Planning Commission held a work session on August 9th of this year, and their recommendation was to approve. They had 2 recommendations in this as well. The resolution itself, the items of the impact fee deferral, wasn't in front of them as it's a resolution that is divided by you. There's the program should continue. That was their recommendation, but it should continue and to apply to multifamily units as well as just single family. They also wanted to. Their suggestion was to have no administrative fee to start with. That we didn't see anybody utilize the program early on. Those costs may be negligible at best, and so kind of take a wait-and-see approach to adopting a fee. If we get a lot of staff time that's consumed in implementing this, then maybe we can come back and do that. So in the resolution itself for the impact fee deferral program, I note that pay the administrative fee, if any. So we still just haven't established a fee for it as of yet. And there are nothing that excludes it from being multifamily as well. The public hearing notice for tonight's hearing was published on August 12th, 2016. We did receive one comment from the Camas School District, Heidi Rosenberg, who's the district capital program director. She just appreciated the timing that when we are collecting the impact fees as opposed to delaying it further within the process. So the recommended action is to hold a public hearing to take public testimony, and if council desires, make a motion to authorize the city attorney to read the ordinance by title only to amend the Washougal Municipal Code to make provisions for the deferral of impact fees for single-family residents, and pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. And, as well, make a motion to authorize the city attorney to read the resolution by title only to update the city's impact fee deferral program and pass and post the resolution in the usual manner.
Thank you, Mitch. And just to clarify, this covers both Camas and Washougal school districts and the impact fees that we collect for either one of them.
Correct.
Okay. With that, I will open the public hearing and ask anyone that wishes to speak to Agenda Bill 65-16. Single-family residential impact fee deferrals, to please step to the microphone and give your name, address, and your testimony. Second call for anyone that would like to speak to the issue. And third and final call for anyone that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 65-16. Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Don't worry, folks, if this is your first one. Most of the time, nobody ever comes up to speak to these, but we've got to go through that. So, council,
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we authorize, that the city attorney read the ordinance by title only to amend the Washougal Municipal Code to make provisions for the deferral of impact fees on single-family residences.
hearing no objections, so ordered.
An ordinance amending Washougal Municipal Code, Sections 15.45.020 and 15.45.050, adding a definition and making provisions for the deferral of school impact fees pursuant to the Impact Fee Deferral Program.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Second.
I've got a motion and second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Council discussion. Brent?
It's 10 o'clock, I don't want to belabor this too much, but do we have a fee for applying for this program?
Currently, no, and that's the recommendation, that at this time, we would not collect a fee, but monitor and see if we get a lot of people taking advantage of the program, and then maybe establishing an administrative fee associated with
And
it.
I know the state law has a limit of 20 units,
Correct.
and do we adopt that?
Yes.
We're going to,
I mean, that's what we stipulate under the resolution on the impact fee deferral program.
okay. All right.
Any other questions, comments? I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we authorize the city attorney to read the resolution by title only to update the city's impact deferral program to be in compliance with state law.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
A resolution repealing Resolution 993, updating the Impact Fee Deferral Program, and authorizing the deferral of school, park, transportation, and fire impact fees.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass and post the resolution in the usual manner.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass and post the resolution in the usual manner. Any council discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Brings us to Agenda Bill 66-16, an emergency ordinance regarding the Woodburn Hill Sub-Area Development Moratorium.
Mayor, council, as we discussed earlier this evening, the Community Development Committee had issues and concerns that came out of the urban growth area land use study, and we looked a lot at the Woodburn Hills sub-area itself and the concerns and issues that were generated there and that caused problems and concerns to this day. And so, with that effect, with the possibility of development coming forward, they felt that development in that area would be better served by complying with the underlying zoning designation and the existing development standards that we have in place. And so they felt that a moratorium would be warranted to allow us time to lift the Woodburn Hills sub-area. Those changes can't be made until January because it's a comprehensive plan amendment, so it would be a 6-month moratorium. But it does contain provisions within the moratorium language itself that allows developments that are consistent with the underlying zoning designation and our development regulations, and obtaining a development agreement that they could proceed with development accordingly. So this is an emergency ordinance that is in front of you. It would take all 5 of you in order to affirm it, and the council desires to pass the resolution, pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Thank you, Mitch.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that the city attorney read the emergency ordinance by title only to enact Woodburn Hill Sub-Area Development Moratorium.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
An ordinance declaring an emergency and enacting a 6-month development moratorium for all properties within the Woodburn Hills sub-area of the city of Washougal.
Mr. Mayor, I move we pass, post, and publish the ordinances in the usual manner.
Second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
You're-
Any council discussion? Yes.
If I could clarify one thing, too, the ordinance itself establishes to set a public hearing on this moratorium on September 26th. So I just wanted to be clear about that.
Paul?
I shouldn't speak for Brent, but I think all three of us on the Community Development Committee, once we spent enough time on this and got some changes made, are unanimous in our support of this.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, and one of the reasons I can support this is we have a safety valve of a development agreement. If someone wants to develop their property, they can come to us and we can take a look at it and see whether it fits into our long-term concepts for the area while we take some more time to study and come up with a final plan. So I think this is the best way we can handle this.
David?
As a general rule, I don't believe in moratoria, so I have to thank my colleague, Brent Boger, who came up with the idea of allowing, I forget how you put that.
Development agreement.
Rich, anything that meets the underlying development standards and development agreement to be approved even during the moratorium.
Correct.
I think that was a stroke of genius. Thank you. It allows me to support it.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving to Agenda Bill 67-16, an ordinance regarding the use of revenues related to transportation improvements raised by the city pursuant to the RCWs that allow us the Transportation Benefit District. David?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Before you is an ordinance that corrects an oversight in the ordinance that you passed at your last meeting. As you'll recall, at your last meeting, you passed an ordinance and assumed all of the rights, powers, immunities, functions, et cetera, of the Transportation Benefit District so that the city would have all of those responsibilities. And as part of that, and appropriately, there was a repeal of the chapter of the Washougal Municipal Code that set up the TBD. An administrative oversight was that there was a section in there that was unique for us, and that section was what you put in very purposefully in setting up the TBD, the non-supplanting provision, wherein you wanted any revenues that were generated to be used for enhanced services, not to be supplanting things that were already spent. It was not the administration's intention to put an ordinance before you at your last meeting that did away with those supplanting provisions. We didn't talk about that at all, and I don't believe it was your intent to do that. So that was an oversight, regrettably. So to fix that, we brought this ordinance back right away, and what it simply does is restore just that part, that non-supplanting provision, so that would be something that would be in your ordinance. And so the recommended action is to read the ordinance by title only, pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
And all the rest of the approved ordinance is still intact as well.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that the city attorney read the ordinance by title only.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
An ordinance regarding the use of revenues related to transportation improvements raised by the city pursuant to RCW 36.73 and RCW 82.80.140, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Any council discussion? Paul?
Mr. Mayor, I move an amendment to strike Section 3.99.020.
So your amendment is to allow supplanting?
Yes.
To allow,
Supplanting. Allow the, if you,
What it means right now is that if we're spending $600,000 a year on pavement maintenance or other uses that the TBD might pay for, if we come up with TBD revenue, it can only add on to that $600,000. despite the fact that some of that $600,000 is coming from general fund, and under some situations might be better to pay for a police officer or something else. So this supplanting paints us into, no supplanting prohibited, paints us into a box.
May I clarify?
Dave?
So this would allow the use of TBD monies for other than transportation uses?
No, as a matter of law, they can only be used for transportation uses.
But you said,
What it will allow, if right now you're paying for all of
Oh, I
our
see.
maintenance in a certain way,
I see, so
you want to take these monies
yeah,
and replace that, move that to something else. It allows you to do that right now.
replace the general fund monies that are going for transportation with TBD monies, move
Right.
the others back to the general fund.
Correct. General fund purposes. They're in the general fund already.
Well, it does provide flexibility. What's the argument against that, Brent?
Well, the idea was, and this was actually my idea, was that we would avoid passing a car tab or whatever kind of tax, and that would go into the pot, and that the money basically would be a way to, I hate to use this word, but launder TBD money and and make it into general fund money, in effect. It's a shell game, and that's why I'm not going to support this amendment. Does it have a second yet?
Nope.
Okay.
Paul, how would you respond to that? I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yep.
Paul, how would you respond to that?
As an economist, I'm sure that Counselor Boger knows that money is fungible. In other
Except in
words,
government.
in other words, you can. So it's exactly the problem that I stated. If at some point we've got lots of REIT money and lots of general fund money to put into street maintenance, and we go ahead and do that, then we're stuck because we can never decrease that amount and replace it with TBD money. Any reduction of REIT or general fund money that was used for transportation purposes would be a pure reduction in budget for transportation. You couldn't make it up with TBD money, despite the fact that it's TBD money that's really paying for transportation. And just like, water utility funds can't be spent on transportation except if you dig up a street to fix a water line, the water utility can pay for that. But they can't pay for street maintenance. And so there's a lot of restricted funds, and I think that TBD money is transportation money. You should be able to use it for transportation. And the general fund money is general fund budget. And if you decided you needed to move that money to a new police officer or a new parks person or something, or new software or a new truck, that you could do that.
Did we not tell the people when we created the TBD that the monies from that would be for transportation?
It is required by
That's all it
law.
can be used for.
It is required by law that TBD money can only be used for transportation. In fact, it's not all transportation, it's pretty narrow.
If memory serves, there was a number of conversations that happened when the TBD was formed on how the money might be used before you even formed it. Would it be just for capital projects? Would it be for, would it be for maintenance? It can be used for operations. Could it be used for a combination of them? I'm pretty sure, Dave, remind me, that the conversation went along the lines of, and I believe this was coming from you, yes, but I want it for maintenance, but I don't want it to go in the place of something else to where if we get to the point where we're able to fund 800,000 of maintenance a year using this, that at some point we lower down and take the general fund money away from there.
That's the planning. That's, you exactly described what's the planning.
Exactly. Now, further, I believe there was conversation during those conversations that the reason this was put in place was basically to give a protection to the council. That should we be in a position to propose any other use of moving monies around, those general fund monies, it had to come back to you all. This doesn't prohibit you from doing it, it just prohibits you from supplanting it while this is still in place. You can take this out anytime, the supplanting issue.
If we, first of all, there's no money in the TBD.
Yeah, there is none.
Nothing yet. And if the only source that's really been discussed going to the TBD is a car tab fee, and that's a lot, this council's a long way from adopting that, but I would imagine if we ever did decide to adopt that, we would need to go to our citizens and tell them that we are going to put this all into increases in our street maintenance program. We're not going to, you know, okay, we got this TBD money, now we can go put this back in the general fund and we can pay for, you know, a new citizen center or some other things that public isn't quite as concerned about. And that's why, I think the supplanting idea was mine, and that's why it's in here, and I think it needs to stay.
Is this idea of supplanting, is it used in other places in the budget currently?
No.
No?
It's used, it's commonly used in other governmental budgets.
But not in Washougal.
Right, so this will be kind of like a first thing.
No, and even, I would say, Dan, even in cases where we may be proposing in a budget that we change how we're funding something or where the revenue's coming from to fund it, you would see that in the notes of the budget page itself. Fund 125 is probably a good example of that. We intend to use monies out of Fund 125 that are specifically for this use, or we intend not to use those because we don't believe we're going to need them. So we try and make those footnotes in there as we make those changes so that the budget document, quite frankly, is as clear as it can be, even though it's not, for yourselves and for the public as well. Dave?
A point of clarification, we've had quite a discussion on this, but I haven't
Yes,
heard
we
a
have.
second.
Nope.
Are we not out of order?
I'm letting you go a little
Point of order, there's no
loosey-goosey with
second.
this one.
Point of order, there's no second.
So I do still have a motion. I have not heard a second. I would say that the motion dies for lack of a second. I still have a motion and a second in place to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item F, which is the start of our budget conversations at a council level for this evening.
Is there an end to that bag of subjects in here?
There is. This is close to the end.
Let's defer that.
Do you care to? You've got staff that have been here
Well, I'm
just to
sorry.
do this.
Second?
There are two or three of them that aren't going to take much time at all, and then we'll wipe four of them out of your further
No,
discussion.
let's defer it. I move that we defer that to a future date.
Second.
We'll need to do it probably on the 29th, because the agendas are full.
They're packed.
So what we'd probably do is call a special work session for 6, maybe, on the 29th, and then you've got a special meeting at 7 that's already been called. We have to have our executive session tonight.
Okay.
Okay. So, without even taking another vote, I'm going to take this off the agenda for the moment, and we will move that on to
Sorry,
our
Jennifer.
special meetings on the 29th. Jeanette's the big one.
Yeah. She needs to be here anyway.
She only has 3 line items. Okay, this is the opportunity, second opportunity in the meeting for anyone from the public that would like to address council. Okay. Mayor's report, I have only 2 items for you. They are for your calendars in the future. The first one is a reminder of the museum harvest days on September 10th, starting at 11 a.m. And the second one is for September 23rd, which is a Friday, starting at 2 p.m., the grand opening of the new Washougal Waterfront Trail down at the port. September 23rd at 2 o'clock.
Hang around a little.
Free food and free libations at that one, I'm told. So that's all I've got on that. Council members.
I hate to bring up, and since everybody's left, I'm not going to discuss the substance of our discussion on the marijuana thing, but it seems that when we had this discussion a couple of years ago, Mr. City Attorney, that one of the reasons I brought up the public vote was because it isn't subject to referendum because it's in the zoning code. Is there a way we could craft an ordinance that would accomplish the same thing as a ban and have it subject to referendum as an alternative? Because I think I kind of get the sense from my colleagues that there'd be less opposition to that method, because that's a normal process that we already have in the.
Say it again?
Well, the reason it isn't subject to referendum is because it's in the zoning code.
Delegated
And the
to
state
the city council.
legislature says city councils have to do that sort of thing. Could we put this like in the nuisance code, like declaring marijuana retail and production a nuisance, and that would make it subject to referendum? And accomplish the ban, but have some kind of vehicle for the public to revisit what we do?
I could take a look at that. That sounds like a long way around the,
Sounds like a stretch.
yeah.
Well, if something was, if the council passes an ordinance that's subject to referendum, then it's subject to
Right,
referendum.
and that's-
But I'm recalling, and we'd have to go back and look at the cases, but I thought that using nuisance provisions to prohibit any one of the 3 use things was determined to not be a legitimate approach and was unconstitutional, or something, that you couldn't do it that way, and that's why it went to zoning. And that's why communities that wanted to ban went to zoning, that the courts found that that was.
Did Mr. Ferguson talk about that in his, yeah.
But now, it's been a long time, I haven't thought about that, but I thought we
He
could
basically
do that.
said cities could ban it. He also said that they could, through the zoning code. Didn't say it had banned he did not say they had to ban it through the zoning code, as I recall, but he did say that they could effectively ban it by, you could adopt a zoning provision that theoretically allows it, but it is so restrictive that there's no way it can be located in the city. You could say it has to be in the industrial zone district.
Right.
The port owns all the industrial property, and they've gone on record saying they won't rent to anybody. So if you just limit it to the industrial zone district, you've banned it, in effect, without not openly banning it.
Same thing we
I
do
could
with.
check and
adult
see
use
if any other
restriction.
jurisdictions have done it through some other means. I'd be reluctant to recommend that unless it's been proven to be successful, just to get around the referendum issue.
Okay.
Brent, any items?
One
Councilmember
other
items?
thing, I was contacted about, some people are concerned about fireworks, and I wondered if there's any, I know we've allowed the mayor to disallow it in a drought, in a dry spell, but I wonder if there's any interest in revisiting what we allow for fireworks around here, because I've gotten some people express concerns to me about that.
Banning completely.
Basically, that's the gist of it.
That's up to the council.
Yeah, we've certainly heard people comment on that. I've heard people in the same conversation say, I would never be for that,
Yeah.
just in casual conversations and social settings.
Well, I did promise I'd
The one-
bring it up. I did
The one day is
promise.
reasonable, but it is certainly at the pleasure of the council. You can
I
certainly.
did promise I'd bring it up tonight.
Anything else, Brent?
No.
Okay, Paul?
I wouldn't oppose ending fireworks. On the other hand, my observation is that the real problem is already illegal.
Thanks, Mitch.
That the things we're getting complaints about, that those fireworks are already illegal. And so I'm not sure I'd call it an enforcement problem, but it's, anyway, beyond that, there's an RTC meeting the 6th of September. I don't have an agenda yet. As far as I know, it's largely ministerial.
Joyce?
I just want to comment that the art festival last Saturday in the Reflection Plaza was a big success.
It was awesome. Thank you. Dave?
No comment.
Dan?
Nothing except for Brent's letter. I think I got the same letter. And the thing that got my attention was, and I saw this happening, it seemed to be people from other communities were inviting their friends over to the city. And if we're the only ones that have the fireworks, we're going to be inviting a lot of other people. That was a cogent point in that letter, so.
Yeah. Right now, correct me if I'm wrong, only Vancouver has taken action to ban them completely. Everybody seems to be rounding them down a little bit, little by little, where the most restrictive. So. Okay, with that,
We're the only ones who allow them on New Year's.
no, I think other ones do. I think county does. I don't know. I'm not sure either. If we could all get together, that's one issue we can never
I
agree
honestly can't keep
on.
track of fireworks.
I know.
I mean, I've had to do some of it in Vancouver, and I just can't remember where we are.
So at this point, we will go into executive session for labor negotiation discussions. David, 15 minutes at the very most, with no action to follow. So,
Thank you
good night,
all
folks.
for-
Thank you for being here. You're welcome to stay in the lobby.